We have some insane allegations that we have to cover in today's news slash drama slash trending slash what the fuck is going on at Bungie video. All right, we're going to talk about a former Bungie employee holding another Bungie employee at knife point at a Bungie Halloween party. At least those are the allegations that are shared with us. I know that sounds insane. This sounds like an actual TV show. And honestly, at this point in time, I'm going to have to start a TV show about all of the different Bungie drama, because this story is literally from 25 years ago, but it has now become top trending in the Destiny 2 category on Twitter because everyone's talking about it. So this is where it starts. Let's go from chronological order. We have former Halo artist and Bungie employee Lorraine McLees says Marty O'Donnell harassed women at Bungie. Now, obviously, this kicked off a big conversation of like, what are these allegations from? What is this all about? So when we start, we go to the beginning here. We got Marty has a very normal reaction to the Bungie sexual assault investigation. So Marty in his Discord says, well, Bungie made better games when it was a boys club. I still remember trying to erase the artist whiteboards before women came to visit. I'll never understand how Lorraine tolerated it. Now, she responds in just a moment, but before I get into that, we should mention that Marty is no longer with Bungie. He was a composer there. He is most famously known for working on the Halo soundtrack, which is obviously one of the best soundtracks of all time. And so obviously he has a very strong position of power, or had a strong position of power at Bungie. And since he's obviously left and he, he's not a big fan of Bungie, and he said some pretty, let's just say he said some pretty wild things on social media over the years, right? So we have the response here from Lorraine here, which is someone else that works at Bungie. And they respond to that saying, I didn't tolerate it, which is why I held up the kitchen knife and told Marty to back off in 99. Yes, you heard me right. Held up the kitchen knife and told Marty to back off in 99. This is an actual event that happened 25 years ago at a Bungie Halloween party. So here we go, the details. Being in a Halloween costume didn't make it okay to crowd in on the ladies and stroke their hair. He felt it was acceptable though. SMH whiteboards, I was too busy to notice. So apparently she never noticed any of the crazy things that were written on some of the whiteboards inside Bungie, I'm assuming. I mean, this is all just, hearsay at this point, what Marty's saying about some of the sort of boys club culture that was going on in Bungie during that time. Now, obviously, this is 25 years ago. A lot has changed since then, and particular people have been laid off, and Bungie has even issued apologies for this stuff. Obviously, there was that huge Activision scandal, and that wasn't directly correlated with Bungie, but they obviously separated, and then that happened afterwards. So we're going to go on and see what she says in this next part here. Someone says, that's an insane story. I'm so sorry. She says, I appreciate that. At the time, all we could do was laugh it off. It's amazing what many of us had to put up with back then, and I'm deeply disturbed. Similar things continue to happen. And then the next part says, for clarity. So she actually goes into the details of this. So we actually have sort of corroboration of this story. Like you have Marty's side and explanation, and then her side. And we'll go into what Marty's response is to this, because he actually has a lengthy response. She says, for clarity, in that moment, I was in the kitchen while I was helping myself to cake. The knife was already in my hand, and the guy in the mask, gloves, and trench coat crowded me in. The next workday, us ladies were vocal about our individual encounters. We went home that night wondering who the fuck that was, but there was a flower on our desks and Marty apologizing to all of us. Tell me, what else could we do but laugh it off, tolerate? Had to look up the definition. So there it is. That's what her side of the story is, that, he shows up with, for this Halloween party with some creepy mask, and he's crowding in on various different ladies at the party, according to her side of the story. Again, allegations, right? And then now we'll go on to see what Marty has to say. So Marty posts this in his Discord. Okay, this is ridiculous. I have no idea why my longtime friend Lorraine decided to bring this up. I'll find out. He then goes on to say, none of you here have a clue about this, so just stay out of it. I never touched anyone. Bungie Halloween party story is hilarious. Alex, Joe, Jamie will tell you about it. I scared people with a mask. So that's his response to this. He scared people with a mask, that it was a joke that everyone was in on. But obviously, her side of the story is that he was apologizing the next day with flowers on the lady's desk. So we'll see what the next part is. So here's his side of the story. He says, right, which is one of the reasons the kids at Bungie got so freaked out. Here's the rest of the story. I was a contractor for Bungie, but was considered in 1999 as part of the team. Bungie threw a big Halloween party and Alex invited me. Unbeknownst to the rest of the Bungie employees, I showed up late after the alcohol had been flowing, and someone buzzed me up without me having to speak. So he got buzzed up. He didn't have to say who he was. So when he shows up to the party, he's in mask, he's in costume. No one knows who he is. So what he does is, I had the mask on, gloves, dark green trench coat, combat boots, knit cap, and dark glasses. Alex met me at the front door and let me in. It's a full head rubber mask with sealed lips, so speaking would ruin the effect. So due to the costume, he doesn't even have like a mouth hole on the costume to like say anything. So he's just kind of walking around being creepy and stuff, like being like, you know, playing the costume is what he's saying, and playing, because it's a Halloween party, right? Creepy in that regard. He says, I shuffled slowly with a limp and proceeded to freak everyone out, which was hilarious to me because these folks created some pretty horrific monsters and aliens. He then goes on to say, yes, the women got really creeped out. We can stop there. Ladies and gentlemen, we got it. But yes, the women got really creeped out, but I made sure to never touch anyone, just loom. Okay, so that's his side. He said he never touched anyone, he just loomed. I remember Lorraine getting pretty mad because I wouldn't talk, and everyone there started realizing that all the employees were accounted for, and thus I was potentially a stranger from off the street. Obviously that creates a problem. He does mention that Lorraine got really mad. He doesn't mention the being held at knife point part of it, where she's like eating the cake and then like literally like using a knife to be like, get away from me. So that's her side, and he doesn't seem to mention that, but he does mention that she was pretty mad, so maybe he just omitted that part. Who knows? We got next, Alex and Joe hauled me into the storage closet, and Joe said he was going to kick my ass if I didn't reveal my identity, which seems like a pretty fair response after he's, you know, kind of making this party a bit crazy. I broke and laughed and said, Joe, it's me, Marty. Took off the mask and waited until they both stopped laughing, at which point Alex told me to put it back on, continue terrorizing, and see how long it took for others to figure it out. They told everyone to not worry, it wasn't a creepy stranger. End of story. So that's his side of the story. No being held at knife point. No, I mean, technically, he didn't mention the apologizing and giving flowers part that was mentioned by her original story the next day. So the kind of a he said, she said type of situation. But clearly, this is some pretty crazy allegations, some pretty serious allegations that are made here. And this individual got blocked for talking a little bit about this. But let me know what you think about the situation down in the comments below. Obviously, right now we're going through a very weird time in the history of Destiny and the history of Bungie right now, where a lot of people are feeling emboldened to speak about their negative or adverse experiences with Bungie, no matter what the timeline is. Obviously, this is from 25 years ago. This is a very, very old incident that happened, but it's just being brought to light now. And so there's going to be various different stories like this coming up with time. And I try to handle these things with a level of like respect and decency, because, you know, we're obviously dealing with some stuff that's pretty sensitive issue. But you can let me know what you think down in the comments below. Like I said, this is just allegations until we get more story and more news. I'm not sure if there's an actual proper investigation going on into this at this point in time. Obviously, this person mentions an investigation happening, but we'll see what happens if there is anything and what goes on from everything that happened in this wild story that's just been shared with us. So that's a wrap on this one. Make sure to smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.